Here's what's next on the Nice Guys on Business.
Learn how to sell your product, process, service is probably the most important thing. And the best way to sell it is to prove to others that you're better at something than what they're currently doing or solving that pain point. Case studies, testimonials. The more you can rack up proof, the easier it is to sell. The easier it is to sell, the more you can scale it. I would say we learned that process a lot slower than other businesses. So spend time proving that you're better at solving a problem than somebody else in the market and have easy to prove proof on that. And that'll help your sales. That's the name of the game.
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day, filling out useless forms and listening to 8 different bosses drone on about mission statements. We were meant to listen to the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community. Man versus nature, man versus robot, human versus AI. It's all relevant, and it is relevant in the marketplace today. Us humans, we love our robots, but we also love the personal connection that we can make with another human being. Now, imagine visiting a website and talking to a real human being. I mean, I bet close rates would be better, or they would skyrocket, not to mention that the added props that you get for having some depth to your team. Well, Ted DeBettencourt and his partner Nick started Juvo Leads 8+ years ago and have been wowing their clients with more conversations, increased phone calls, higher conversion rate. I'm excited to chat about this because I think it's about time that we have someone of your depth and quality on the show. Ted, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business.
Doug, thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you. So I understand that it was just happenstance that you and Nick happened to share a like a co-working space or something like that, and you guys had 2 ideas, kind of like you got chocolate in my peanut butter, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. Did you combine the efforts to make it work, or was it just a brainstorming session that the 2 of you put something together?
Well, we've been bumping into each other at the different co-working spaces in Boston for a few years. We both kind of had different projects at the time. He actually started solving a problem I had before I knew I had it. And we tried his solution. So he created this thing called Fast Style. And basically, it was a pop-up on your website, and you still see it around out there. But basically, it's a pop-up that says, give me your phone number, and we'll call you. So we try to use it as a way to see how it would compare to the chat companies out there. And we tried a few variations of it. And long story short, we lost every A/B test first chat. Like it didn't convert nearly as well as chat did. So I just remember walking in the hallways, and for me as a marketing agency owner at the time, chat was a third party. I liked some things about it, but I didn't like other things about it. One of the things I didn't like about the chat that were out there then was they were stealing my phone calls. They were blocking certain elements of the website that I wanted to be shown, and they were prioritizing themselves over the interests of my clients. So we were trying to beat it. That solution we had called Fast Style didn't beat it, but then we said, all right, well, if we can't beat them, let's join them. So what started as a company doing Fast Style, we evolved to setting up a dashboard where I would answer my clients' chats. So Nick kind of converted his Fast Style dashboard to the first iteration of the Juvo Leads dashboard, and that was chat agent number 1, just answering clients' chats and getting them more leads.
I would imagine that gets, how scalable, obviously when it's just you, and, you have to have certain hours. You can't be 24/7 unless your wife, and I think you have 4 kids, right? They were probably, at the time, just a couple less kids, but man, you were probably, anytime you're sitting down somewhere, watch TV or anything, the phone's ringing, you got to pick it up, right?
It was tough. And, you can't really do anything else because at the time, I had a few clients on it. I'd get maybe 1 or 2 a day. It wasn't a big deal. And I would just turn it off at night. And then we got a little bit bigger, and, we'd had it on all my clients, maybe 5 or 6 in Boston. And I was getting, 10 chats a day now, maybe sometimes 15. And it kind of starts being all encompassing. It just interrupts you. And the thing that we learned is speed matters more than anything else. So it became quite onerous. But what we found is that when I answered them fast and did the right thing, we do A/B tests against the other companies doing chat against us. So I'd be on half the chat, the other companies with the other half. I give my clients a lot more leads. But the thing is, as you said, it wasn't scalable. So then the biggest hire we ever had was chat agent number 1, so I could stop being the primary chat agent. And that was changed my life for the better, obviously.
All right, so we talk about staying in your zone of genius, and you as an agency owner, you answering the phone certainly was not your zone of genius, but you probably were certainly very proficient at it because you really knew the bottom line. You knew your clients because you're a human being, and you were talking to your clients, and your clients were like, "Hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to convert more of this web traffic to leads." How were you able to? I know it's easy to train somebody, but how are you able to train like the relevance and the importance of, man, you've got to be fast, you've got to be accurate, and you've got to be telling the truth, all of those things. And how do you do that when you start making these hires early on?
Early on, we didn't. So we weren't very good when we started. We got a lot better over time.
Yeah.
And it turns out you can't run a management structure where you just yell at people and tell them to do better is not the way to run a business. And at first, frankly, that was me. I was scary to work for. I was just do a better job. If they didn't, it was just a lot of yelling. That's not scalable, and that's not a way to actually bring improvement. So over time, what we started doing is creating chat scripts for every client that was unique. So our chat agents knew what to say. They could add variation for syntax, context, but we gave them the script so they knew what to say. But then quickly we learned kind of what makes for a good chat, what makes for a bad chat. And by far and away, the most important thing is more so than saying the right thing, but saying it fast. So the number one element of bad chat is losing the chatter. So when the chatter just disappears. So even if you say the wrong thing, or if it meaning like there's a typo or something like that, like you're not going to lose the chatter. But if you take a long time to reply, then you're losing the chatter. So speed's the number one thing. So what we did to that end is every chat that comes in, we grade our agents on a 10-point scale. So our agents are hired, fired, promoted, demoted based on their biweekly chat score. So we really pay attention to what the chat agent says, make sure they follow the rules, and how fast they said. So every second over 15 seconds for the chat replies is a deduction on their points. They don't want to lose points because they get paid on that. So the faster they are, the more they get paid. And we literally monitor every chat they answer. So
wow, that's cool. What great incentive just in speed alone. And let me put an exclamation point on something you said, because I think it's so important. And there's been a number of times where I've chatted with, I guess, what I thought was a human being, and maybe it was or maybe it wasn't. But the idea behind it is when they respond, and it's even if it's not the answer to my question, but it's a response to something that I said. The fact that I know that they're there wins brownie points for me as the guy that's making the inquiry. So you're 100% right. In Nice Guy community, maybe you can relate to this when you're on hold with a company or you're chatting with somebody and they respond, "Hey, I appreciate the extra time. Just give me another moment. I'm trying to work on the solution," or whatever your question, the answer to the question. That to me is just as good as having the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Fuel to your fire of what you've just said, Ted. So
yeah, 100%. I'm not on support a lot, but I just remember being on support with usually tech support for hosting companies, and like something was acting up with hosting, I needed an upgrade. When they reply fast, it was a better experience, and I know that's true for our numbers. Prove that's true. Replying fast is far and away the most important thing.
Talk to me for a second about the difference between somebody going to a website for a support-related question as opposed to going to the website for a sales inquiry-related question. Is there a certain weight that is placed on that, or is there a certain direction that you use to send somebody that's calling for or chatting about support versus sales?
Yeah, it's a much different world. So we do sales-related chats, so we don't touch any of the support-related chats. Sometimes in even our world, there are people that come in asking about support questions. But, some of the big verticals we serve are legal, home services, elective medicine, and the like. But if someone comes and asks us for a legal question, we would literally get our client sued if we try to give a legal question.
Right, of course. Yeah, that was, I guess, part of what I was going to say. There's some level of liability, or how do you even, do you deflect to a different group? Hey, this is the wrong spot for this, or how do you say that gently? I'm curious what you do.
every vertical is different, but for legal questions, we literally just divert. I'd be happy to find out more information, pass this along to somebody that can help. So let's say it's a window or door company. Does this size window fit on this angle roof? Like,
Right.
I have no idea. Neither do our agents. So again, it's more about deflecting and saying, I'd love to set you up with a meeting before I find out if that answer. Can you tell me what your address is, what type of project you're working on, those type of questions.
Again, asking questions is really key. When they feel like, and I don't think I know this isn't an act. When you are actually soliciting information from someone, you are actively engaging them in the sale, in the process. And it's great, because when you say, I'm going to have John from my team get back to you, it's a lot different than, I'm not really sure of the answer. Thank you for asking. I'll see if I can get somebody in sales to reach out to you. But when you say something that's personal to that person and you start asking questions, that's got to be like the winner opportunity for your chat agents.
Exactly right. Every answer to a chat question that we have is ended with an answer, unless we go for all right, I'll pass it along now, because we just need to keep the conversation moving forward and making sure we're finding out the information we need so that the client can turn it into a lead or a sale.
Let's talk about numbers in terms of like better to have a human powered person as opposed to have a robot powered agent that's on the line. I know the conversion rates, the talk rates, the obviously it's got to be higher because you have so much more flexibility with a human being than you do with AI. But do you? So can you share some of that information, or at least give me what your spin is on that?
Sure. Less about spin, more about data. So right now, us like everybody,
that's a numbers guy for you. That's a real, this isn't a sales pitch. This is more of I'm going to tell you really how it is, Doug. So just sit down and shut up, Doug.
No, that's fair. And it's a good question. AI is going to take it over the world at some point. And when it does, sorry, chat agents, see you later. Right now, our job is to get the most leads as possible for our clients without them getting sued. So the problem with AI right now is something called phantom answers. So a lot of times and we're always testing out different AIs, we use it, we're testing it as more assistance. Mm-hmm. So what would the AI say in this situation? Mm-hmm. So the problem we have is that when we're doing it, AI sometimes gives answers. So, we're on a lawyer's website. Here's what happened. Do you think I have a case? We can't answer that because that's legal advice. But the AI will answer that. So if we get our client sued, that's a problem for us.
Right.
So right now, the biggest problem with AI is phantom answers. When they clean that up, it'll be a lot better. But right now, it's too much of a risk for us.
So do you see, personally, I look at it and think, and again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't look into the future, but I look at it and say, I don't know that we can ever replace human beings. I mean, maybe AI assisted human beings would be a faster way to get information or provide information to customers that are inquiring or potential customers. But do you see, I don't see the extinction of your company or your position I see the expansion of it, because the more AI becomes powerful, the more that we need people to run the tool.
Yeah. So that's how we see it. We'd rather tell everyone about, AI is taking over. Don't bother getting into space. Don't start your own company. It's too hard. Because what's going to be in 2 to 3 years from now is every human powered chat company out there, and there's not many, maybe 10 or so. They're all going to be using AI assistants. So they're going to be AI is going to suggest, and then we can choose to use that answer or use a modified version of an answer and take it from there. So for example, and we're already testing that now with a lot of clients. There are some problems with it, and AI is really good on our simple scripts, but when you get into the more confusing scripts that have more if-then statements and take down different trees depending on an answer, AI right now isn't keeping up as well, and it can't interact with third-party softwares as well. So oftentimes we're booking appointments for clients. We can't have ChatGPT go on Calendly and book appointments.
Right.
We can't have them manually fill out a form that a client needs filled out for some weird CRM they have. They can't log into local service ads and answer those messages there. So there are some limitations currently. They will go away eventually, but I always envision you'll need some human oversight of that just to be safe.
There's a perceived depth to your staff when you have a human being manning a chat or when you have a human being responding to an SMS or a text message, or responding to picking up the phone, for if somebody has a Google phone number. And those are three things that you guys that do also. It's not just going to a website and starting a chat, is it? Or do I have that wrong?
You can start a chat on our website. You can start a text message, or we answer LSAs. Did I answer that
Yeah,
properly?
yeah, totally. Doesn't it feel like, I mean, is one of your, I'm not telling you how to sell your services to a prospective client, but the depth of your staff, there's a perception that you have a richer, deeper staff when you have all of these other things. You could run a shop with two people and have these human beings that are responding to SMS and text and chat messages and voicemail, and you feel like, man, they must have 100 people that work for their company.
Yeah. Well, we always want we're a little bit under 100, but we're getting quite up there on the chat agent side. But yeah, the more ways we can help our clients make their communication faster and better, the better their business's support is. That just makes clients all the stickier for them.
I just mean that the company that hires you, there's a perception in depth when you have all of these agents, or the feel that you have these agents. Me as a small company,
Oh, absolutely.
15 people on my team, and now all of a sudden I have human beings responding to chat messages on my site, and SMS response if we have that type of outreach, and all the other and voicemail responding. I mean, somebody's going to like, geez, TurnKey. I mean, they must have 100 people on their team. They're like when we say to a client that's coming on board with us, we have a support team that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I can compare that, to my unique value proposition, where my competition, is offering services for 7 or 8 hours a day. I mean, I've 2x how many, 3x how much, effort that I'm putting into it. People perceive that our staff is bigger than it is because of the 24/7. And that's what I'm saying about, doing all of what you guys are doing.
For sure. And aside from that, I think the big value add for our businesses is when they're spending money on marketing. So let's say you have a $10,000 a month marketing budget, maybe $100,000 a month. If you're spending money in Google Ads and you're realizing that you're not getting as much bang from your buck as you could be, I think the bigger value add is, aside from the perception of the business's size, is the fact that they're able to make their marketing budget more effective by capturing a greater percentage of the leads, of the visitors' traffic, and turning them into leads.
So let's talk about that for just a moment, because I know that there are certain qualifiers that would put somebody as an ideal client, into Juvo Leads' hands. Can you share a little bit about who makes the ideal client for you? Because I think as we discussed in the past, I think over a year ago, we probably had a conversation about what makes for a good Juvo Leads client. There was a certain parameter that, even TurnKey, we didn't really quote unquote qualify as the ideal client for you on the other side. So can you share that?
Sure. Yeah, we work with B2C businesses. Most think of the verticals: legal, high value home services, elective medicine, plastic surgery, dentist, stuff like that. And then lastly, retirement homes. So if you're in one of those categories, our biggest vertical by far is PI, followed by home services. So roofers, flooring, construction companies. And if you're in that vertical and you get over 1,000 visitors a month to your website, or you spend over $1,000 a month in paid traffic, so Google Ads, LSA, one of those verticals, and you're trying to get more leads from your website. So basically, the only clients we can't help are those that don't want to grow their businesses, if they don't bring any traffic or spend any money to bring traffic, or if they're not in that vertical.
So talk a little about the service, how it works. So somebody goes to a website. Okay, so take me from there. Somebody says, okay, well, I fit into that category. I get 1,000 hits on my website or whatever every month. I need to convert more because I got a shitty conversion of my automated robot on there. I want a human powered situation going on. So tell me what happens when a visitor goes to the website.
Sure, pretty simple. So there's a few ways you can engage with us, but the most common way is you go on the website. We pop up in the bottom right. And it says, it's a little chat avatar: Amy, Sally, Jim, Rebecca. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm from this business. I'm looking to help. I'm a real person. What can I help you with today? They start chatting. Hi, I need help with personal injury case. We say, I'm sorry to hear. What happened? Where did it happen? When did it happen? We qualify them based on the rules that business gives us. And then we send it to the business, the firm, in the way they want us to. We can book consultations, send them a phone call, however they want us to do. Our job is to get them on the phone in a meeting with that lead as fast as possible after we've qualified them.
And this is on, I guess, would this be considered inbound marketing? Like, I mean, you don't do any outbound at all unless there's a follow-up that's required, or do you?
No, we don't touch outbound. Every time I think of the term inbound marketing, I always think like HubSpot.
Well, somebody calls, they're inquiring about services. I look at that, maybe I'm wrong, but I look at that as an inbound opportunity. So you guys are working on inbound opportunities.
Exactly right. So we are only as good as the traffic that a business brings us. So if we go on a site and there's no traffic, we're not going to do anything because they bring the traffic. We just convert it. At the end of the day, all we are is an advanced conversion tool. We help businesses get more leads from the traffic they're already getting.
So just work with me for a second, because I'm curious. You create, which is really good. You create a problem that some people may not even realize that they have, and the problem is that if they don't have, you don't create the problem, but you put a magnifier on the problem. If they don't have the leads, then they can't work with you. And isn't there an opportunity? I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you have relationships with partners that help people bring in more leads to their. I'm assuming I'm telling you something you already know here. Do you work with companies that are partners with you that help them bring in more leads so that you then can do your job and convert the leads at a higher rate because you're using a human?
Yeah. So our greatest partners are our marketing agencies, because at the end of the day, if a business comes to us and like, well, Ted, I'm not bringing any traffic. Well, let's talk, because we might not be a good fit for you, but let us get you connected with a marketing agency or even a business coach that can help you get there. So maybe we're not ready now, but 6 months after talking to you to one of our agency partners, boom, now you're rock and rolling. You have leads coming in anyway. We help you grow leads, but we don't create them out of thin air. Whereas a marketing agency can help you create them out of thin air.
When did you discover that between your superpowers and Nick's superpowers? And I know you guys have very unique, like Strick and I mean, Strick is definitely the spreadsheet process guy, and I'm the relationship and salesperson and, a support in there. When did you know that you guys just clicked, just meshed, just from a business standpoint, you and Nick?
I would say there was no epiphany. I think we quickly broke down like, oh yeah, it's working. I think we quickly, as the first 3 years of the business, we didn't really know how to grow the business. I think we were at $10,000 in revenue after 3 years. Like we were kind of struggling to get off the ground. At about year 4, we started to hit our stride, and we kind of been growing since then at a healthy rate each year. The past 3 years, we've grown over 80% each year, which has been good.
That's great. I love a success story like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. We didn't really realize up front, but once we started making it our full-time jobs, we kind of just naturally acclimated to different roles. So he takes over some things, I take over other things. He's a developer by trade, so he can do all the development. Doesn't like doing any of the operations or sales or account management, whereas I was doing that for years anyway. Right. So we kind of just went that way, and it's a great relationship. So he kind of thinks about things differently than I do. And that pairing, the yin and the yang, kind of work out great for us.
When Strick and I this past summer, we went to Utah to a to a program called Startup Ignition. And in that program, we learned and sat down with, probably 40 other startups. These were technology startups, totally not the space that we're in, but we felt like we needed to get into the brain space that a technology startup would go through, so that we could learn a little bit more about expanding and growing and scaling our business as well. Because we feel like we have all of the right components, we just haven't figured out the scaling thing. And we've had a good growth spurt, but not at an 80% rate, maybe 20% a year, which is good. Slow and steady wins the race. That's how I've led my entire career for the past, 50, 45 plus years. And I keep thinking, man, I'd love to figure out like the next thing for you. Do you see this as something to build, scale, and sell? Do you see this as a build, hold on to this, and just this is going to be, just create an income stream for you where you basically could step back but still maintain ownership of the company. Where do you see it going over the next, 5 years, 10 years, whatever? I know 10 years is probably way too far of a horizon for us to see.
Well, if I'm not doing this, I gotta find, it depends who's asking. So we have VCs approach us all the time and say, hey, what are the plans? So someone told me a long time ago, anytime a VC asks you, you tell them, hey, we might be interested, but reach out in 6 months. Because if you do that, sometimes they start flooding you with gifts. So I haven't got any big gifts yet, but I want some football tickets or something cool. I haven't got anything yet.
That's nice. I'll keep that in mind though.
I'm gonna keep doing that. So every time I get those emails, yeah, reach out in 6 months. By the way, here's my favorite gifts. I haven't got it.
That's a good plan.
But honestly, we have no intention of selling. We both are in the same stage of life. I got 4 little kids. My partner just had a second baby. We know we need to be working, and have every intention to keep working. So even if we get to the point where we sell and have enough money to not ever need to work again, well, what the heck am I going to do? My wife's going to yell at me nonstop and tell me to get a job, and they'll have to start and do something else. So I love what I do, and I want to keep doing it.
It's interesting. There are people that grow the businesses and that's a great answer. And I appreciate your raw honesty with that. I think I'd be the same way. If I retired, I think my girlfriend would probably just yell at me nonstop because I'd be driving her crazy. Yeah. So, but at the same time, there are people that are built to be big picture thinkers and idea generators, and they're not implementers, which is fine. And that's a great role. And I've noticed over the last year since we've known each other, you are really good at implementing and working the plan. I just never knew, I always take a behind the scenes look. What's it look like for you in a few years? I mean, are you building to sell? And that's totally fine. I don't think there's any wrong answer. I'm just always curious what people's answers are.
Yeah. It's interesting. Everyone in tech, I feel like they're building to sell. I'm all right, so if you do become a unicorn and can sell, then what are you going to do? Then you're going to have to build something else. Scratch.
Right.
I'd rather. It wasn't fun the first 4 years.
No.
3 years. I don't want to go through that again. We're at a good stage, growing at a healthy clip, hitting strides. It's a heck of a lot more fun now than the early days. I don't want to go through the early days again. I
think it's fucking crazy that people want to go through those first 3 years, because very similar to you, Strick and I were like, okay, we were paying somebody. I think we had an operations manager. We were paying $40,000 a year before we were even taking a paycheck, because we didn't know how to do some of that stuff. So Strick and I were like, all right, well, that's, $3,500 that we're paying somebody this month. Hey, are we taking a paycheck this month? Do you remember those early on? I mean, I'm assuming you remember those early on years where it sucked, right?
Yeah, it's not fun at all. I don't want to do that again.
All right, so here's the question then. There are a number of people that listen to this show that are in that category. Give them some advice. How did you know to hang on? I know you knew you had a good idea, but there's a difference between having a good idea and actually, making it stick. How do you what can you share with them to tell them it's okay? You're right where you need to be. Just stay in the zone a little longer.
Learn how to sell your product, process, service is probably the most important thing. And the best way to sell it is to prove to others that you're better at something than what they're currently doing or solving that pain point. Case studies, testimonials. The more you can rack up proof, the easier it is to sell. The more you can scale it. I would say we learned that process a lot slower than other businesses. So spend time proving that you're better at solving a problem than somebody else in the market, and have easy to prove proof on that. And that'll help your sales. That's the name of the game.
I'm the only thing I'm going to take point in is, and disagree with you about, is it took you longer than it could have taken. I think that 3 or 4 years, I think you have to have those battle scars for 3 or 4 years. I think you have to go through the struggle. You have to make $10,000 a year, each of you, both of you, before you can make $10,000 a month from the business. So you have to go there. And the longer you're in the struggle, I used to say to Strickland all the time, Strick, just give me the fucking flywheel speech one more time. Please tell me that it's hard in the beginning, but then it just runs on its own. And, fortunately, over the last, I would say 3 or 4 years for us, it's not like it runs on its own. We certainly need to add every day to the labor pool, but man, it's much better to be working in an environment where you're at least turning a profit than you're struggling to make ends meet at the very beginning. But I don't think it took you. I don't think the 3 or 4 years was not a learning experience along the way that you didn't benefit from. So anyway, just my food for thought, because this you got to go through the struggle to get to to get to the good stuff.
I completely agree. And if God forbid we were in that position, we had to do it again, I don't think it would be a 3 to 4 year to figure it out.
Agreed.
I think once you go through that, then the next time around, it might be a year of that hardcore hustle. But you're right, have some great learnings that nothing else can teach you than going through it. Completely agree with you on that.
So for those in our community that are checking out Ted and Nick's story, make sure you head over to juvoleads.com. Go way to the bottom, because the first place I always start on is the About Me page, because I like to see about the owners. You should put that way at the top. Let people know what you did, what you've accomplished and overcome. Your story. Now, I know in technology, people don't necessarily give a shit about the story, but me as a guy that owns a business, as an entrepreneur, and maybe the lawyers and the retirement centers and the high end home improvement companies, maybe they don't care about your story. But me as an entrepreneur that went through the struggle myself, I love to see the Nick and Ted story. So, but those in our community, go all the way down to the bottom. Check out the About Me page for Ted and Nick. You'll see that he's got some pictures in there, and so does Nick. And it's cool, compelling story, and congratulations on all you do, Ted.
Thank you. Yeah, Doug. It's I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you being on the show. For those in our community, check out juvoleads.com. If you feel like you fit the goal of what Ted was sharing a little bit earlier about how to qualify to become a client of theirs, the big thing is making sure that you have the traffic going to your site. Even if you don't have the traffic going to your site right now, it might be to your advantage to have a conversation with Ted. Maybe he can give you some insights and some pointers as to what you need to do, or maybe you do have more volume than you actually think that you have. And I know, Ted, you did a really good job of helping us do an analysis of that very early on in the game. So thanks for doing that. Emma, is there anything that I should be asking you that I haven't asked you yet?
What has podcasting done for our business? I'd throw that out at me, Doug.
Okay, let's do it. Hey, Ted, this will be completely genuine here. What has podcasting done for your business? I'm really curious. That's a good question.
Sure. So we always struggled about figuring out branding. It's not something that we can track. It's not something we can measure. It's hard to quantify. But over the past year that we've learned that by doing podcasts and by doing other branding activities, our brand has been growing. So we're having more people coming to us. How'd you hear about us? Oh, I heard about you here, here, and here. And we're having more of those people say the touch points was a podcast they heard. Maybe it wasn't even us as the guest, but it was just having heard one of our guests on our shows. So not only can our guests get some love from new business, but also we get business from that as well, as it kind of helps grow it. So we are definitely seeing the impact of that, and just kind of focusing as we get bigger. When you're small, brand is kind of a 4-letter word, but as you get a little bit bigger and you're not watching every dollar that comes in, but you're having those meetings that people are telling you how they heard about you and they reference a podcast, those start to be wins.
Yeah, and I agree, and thank you for opening up that question. I tend not to be real self-serving on this show when it comes to podcasting, just because I tried to build a relationship with the guest and not necessarily focus on the business growth, but the business growth does always happen because of it's just guilty by association. Somebody that comes on the show, knows we're producers, ends up producing a show with us. Totally cool, but I don't want to negate the fact that, as a brand builder, there are so many ways that you can monetize your podcast, Nice Guy Community. And certainly it's real important for you to have a good conversion method if there's somebody listening to the show for them to convert to a client. But just as important, those hidden gifts that you get from podcasting, the relationships that you build, the brand awareness that's out there, all of the things, the untouchable people that sometimes are out there as the industry insiders and standards and the go-to people that would never have spoken to you had you not had a podcast. And basically they're promoting something. You're inviting them on the show. They sit down and converse with you. I've had so many big names on the show that have had conversations with me just because I've had a podcast, as opposed to, they're not going to take my phone call if I just call them and say, "Hey, Gary V, can we talk for 20 minutes? No, but he was on the show, So all of those kind of things definitely happen. So thank you for reminding me to remind people that is a critical element too, Ted.
Yeah, of course, and it has been a boon to our business for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, nice guy community. Thanks for listening again today. And thanks to Ted DeBettencourt and his partner, Nick, for sharing Juvo Leads and Juvo Leads story. All the information will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.